Hello, y'all. Welcome to En Pointe, the mindset podcast for dancers, artists, athletes, and creatives. I am your host, Latte, aka Lottie Dottie. We are here for episode 3. This week we are talking all about choreographing, creating art, the creative process, kind of the vulnerability that goes into that as an artist, and just associated with sharing your art with the world. It's a very intimate space, so I wanted to kind of talk about the process and all the feelings associated with that. This episode is going to help my artists, really specifically my choreographers, dancers who are just getting into choreography, choreographers who, are looking for another take or a different take on choreographing. If you're scared to choreograph or create art and how to fix this, if you want to tweak your creative process. And then I've just got some tips for you on what to do when you're feeling blocked and how to deal with imposter syndrome. So let's dive right in. Just a little disclaimer on this. So we all know that I'm very type A. I'm also, like I've said before, a Pisces moon. So very much all in my feels, all in my creative process. The way that I choreograph is a little bit deep, I would say. I get all into it's a very artsy process. I also, when I was going to school for dancing, I think we've all have done this. Like if we've gone to school for dance, you take a choreography class and you do really weird shit in that class. Like your teacher will be like, choreograph a triangle. And you are sitting there with your friend choreographing like a triangle, and you really come up with a whole stance and why it's a triangle and it makes sense to you. So it's a very like artistic, far out way of thinking of choreography. If you're used to just piecing things together, that's completely fine. There is a time and a place for that too. And if you got to get shit done, you got to get shit done. So take what works with you or works for you, and just like leave what doesn't. So I'll say that about that. Now let's get into the whole process. So before we even start choreographing, your pre-step, and everyone's going to feel triggered by this because when I talked about this before, everybody got upset. They felt personally attacked. Your pre-step is going to be to set a deadline. You have to set a deadline. I know that you want to just sit there and just work on your artwork until you feel like it's ready, but it's never going to feel ready. It's never going to feel done. You're never going to feel complete. You're going to always want to keep working on this, keep making it perfect. And you're not a good judge of when something's done or perfect. You're the artist. Your job is to put out art, not to judge it. And if you don't have a deadline, you're going to keep working on it and you're going to keep coming up with excuses not to put your artwork out. So before you even start choreographing, before you even decide I'm going to choreograph a piece, I need you to just set a deadline. And I'm not saying to rush yourself, but a little bit of healthy pressure is great. And it's good for growth too, because then you start to get better at getting things out on a timely, and not even in a timely manner, on a more consistent basis, because really that's where the sauce is, the consistency of putting your art out on a consistent basis. This is going to combat perfectionism. Y'all know what I say about perfectionism. Perfectionism is just fancy procrastination. Stop calling yourself a perfectionist. You're really calling yourself a procrastinator with style. Get over it. There is no such thing as perfectionism. We all want things on a level. We all want things to be quote unquote perfect. You have to get out of that space. I don't even think I would go to like if like a job interview is like, what's your worst quality? I used to be like, I'm a perfectionist. Oh, I'm so corny. It's so fucking corny. Get away from that. You're not a perfectionist. You're using this as an excuse and a crutch. Stop it. And also tell people about your deadline. When I am like toying with the idea of am I gonna have class? Like, I kind of want to have class. I'm kind of feeling inspired. I don't know, like, because I do pop-ups. I don't do regular classes. Um, a lot of times I just pick a date and I just start making a flyer. Bitch, I'm having class. We gonna dance to something, whether I feel inspired or not. Now it's my job as the artist choreographer to find that inspiration, to work with my inspiration, and to bring you guys a great class. But if I just waited until inspiration hit, or if I waited until it was, perfect, girl, we would never have class. Let me tell you. Sometimes you have to just put a date out there into the universe and start telling people. Step one, we need to find inspiration. So we need to find a stance on a topic. We need to catch a vibe, is like what I like to say. Let me just catch a vibe. Let me just explore what I even want to have a discussion on, what I want to choreograph about, what I want to create an art piece about. Obviously, I think the very, very big one as dancers and choreographers, we're going to listen to music. We can also listen to spoken word. I love a good like spoken word piece. I don't think the girls don't do it like that no more. So listening to music, going on a drive. Oh my God, I love going on a drive. Every time I'm driving like to San Diego or, back to LA, I just go through all of my music and try to find inspiration through that. Going somewhere and traveling. I think a lot of people get inspiration when they're out on the road, right? Because we're in a new like environment. We can try new things. It's sad that we have to wait till vacation to try new things and to try on new outfits and vibes, but you know how it is. Trying on different clothing styles. I know that like sometimes like a whole vibe is inspired by a style. Like think about burlesque, right? Think about the clothing that's involved in burlesque, the burlesque style and the movement, right? Goth, that's a cool style. We love a goth moment. And resting. A lot of times we need to just rest and then inspiration will come to us after that. So I like to throw that one in there because, sometimes if I'm feeling really jammed up, I will take a nap. Okay. I'll get a good night's sleep. Stop trying to force it. Just rest and your inspiration will appear. Just overall feeling good, right? So low key, very much high key, actually. High key, I think it's self care and feeling good brings about art. Now, with that being said, let's just talk about this real quick. There's an idea that pain brings really good art. And I like a lot of my friends are like in other areas of art, like painting. You hear this from like actors, dancers too. Like I think every artist has like the assumption of like struggling artist, or like I need to put myself through hell so I can bring you like the raw pain of art. And I get it. I very much get it. Pain and discomfort can bring some really, and anger, like these quote unquote negative emotions can bring some really cool art. However, I feel like, this is my personal opinion, if you have to put yourself through hell in order to find that inspiration, number one, is that sustainable for a long time? Like, think about it. If you're having to put yourself through hell every single time you want to create something, that's going to take a toll on you mentally, physically. And I get it. I'll die for my art. Like, sis, we got you. But sustainable long term, is this something that you want to, I don't know, do for your creative process? Number two, don't be triggered. If you're having to, feel some type of way every single time you create, is it really you creating the art, or is the pain just the artist at that point? Hear me out. Like, I know. But like if you can't create from any type of space, are you really the artist, or are you just using, or is the pain the real artist, you know? Another one too is, oh God. So, and I don't think dancers as much, but I hear like some of my other artsy friends, you know, oh, like I'll have a drink, I will smoke whatever. Dancers probably smoke more. Um, I don't know about using a substance in order to ignite your creative spark. I know that can enhance. I'm not a narc. Get off of my fucking back. I used to smoke, burn it down too. But that, like, if you have to do that in order to be creative, like, just, you know, I just think it warrants some thought. You know what I'm saying? Maybe try to be creative without the substance or the pain and see what happens. If you can, then it's cool. Like, it's not a big deal. But if you can't create without this, then I don't know, friend, we might have a problem. So just think about it, girl. Anywho, so when I work with artists and they're experiencing a block, right? Because that's kind of, my Glock gets jammed. My artistic Glock gets jammed. I'm so corny. Um, I tell them to lean into their inspiration more. So, like I said, going back to going on a drive, listening to music, you need to find the inspiration. Stop trying to pour from an empty cup. Fill yourself up first, rest, whatever it may be. This also looks a lot like what I said before, self-exploration and discovery. I keep going back to episode 1. I'm telling you, it's the building block. If you still haven't listened to that episode by now, girlfriend. Do some auditing as well. Like, if you're feeling blocked, do some auditing on what you're consuming. So I think there's good content to consume. And then I think there's like just mindless fuck content. And like, there's a need for both. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're both very much needed. There's the content that you use to feed your mind, to better yourself, etc. You're learning something, learning a skill. It's making you laugh. And then there's just like fuck content. Like, you know, like people criticizing people, or I don't know, those food videos. I love those. Those are so satisfying. Don't get me wrong. But if I sit all day and just watch like people eating, like, my brain is just so mush by the end of the day that, yeah, if you tell me to choreograph something, bitch, I have nothing for you. Okay. Also, I don't know about the studies of, I guess this is specifically TikTok, but if you're like TikToking, isn't that like, you know, scrolling all day is producing dopamine, and there's got to be something about dopamine levels and feeling creative or creativity. I'm going to look this up because it's actually, that seems pretty interesting to me. Another thing you could do if you're feeling blocked is explore your subconscious. I'm a manifestation girly, but I'm very much like also like a get up and get your ass moving girly. Like, I am so about like manifestation, visualizing mantras, but I'm also like, okay, well, so let me go ahead and just make a plan because we can't just sit here and like rub our crystals together. I love crystals, obviously, but you know, the shit don't work unless you do. Anyways, my point, getting in tune with your subconscious. So, what are your subconscious thoughts telling you? Like, when you wake up in the morning and it's just you and your thoughts, or like right before you go to bed, or like in times during the day when it's quiet, or just you're by yourself and you have a moment to yourself, what are your thoughts saying to you? Are they saying like some fucked up shit? Like, are they constantly, because you know that you aren't your thoughts, right? We haven't got there yet, but the thoughts that pop into your head, it's not you. It's just automatic. There's nothing to do with that. What kind of stuff are they saying? Are they telling you that you're stressed and anxious, and now you feel so stressed and anxious you can't even get any of your artwork out? Are they telling you you're not good enough, no one wants your art? Are they telling you that like no matter what you like, what kind of thoughts are you having? I don't know if they work, but I used to listen to subliminals on YouTube, and I don't know. I feel like that shit works. Like I don't remember. I was listening to them in a like very stressful time in my life, and I just remember like listening to them at night before I went to bed and like sleeping with them on, and then like waking up feeling less stressed. But I don't know, could be placebo, but placebo is an amazing effect on people. Um, so getting more in tune with your conscious, like these are things to lean into when you're feeling blocked. Okay, so step 2. Okay, so we found our inspiration. We're doing it all on our own. We don't feel blocked anymore. We're actually ready to start our creative process. This portion, if you are like efficient and you start to really get in flow with your creative process, like the way that I have this down is this is the least amount of time in this whole process. The actual choreographing in my process is like an hour. I'm so efficient now. It's the finding inspiration and working with my inspiration that takes, a little bit more work. But I have it down now where I can choreograph in maybe like an hour, under an hour. So this is, if you're doing it right, it's going to take the least amount of your time. And we want that. I used to think there's been a lot of things I've had to unthink. And even now, like I'm always constantly trying to evolve my mindset so I can be a better mindset coach for my dancers. I used to think that the more time I spent on creating a dance piece, then it was more important, which is like not true. You can spend maybe 5 minutes on something and an hour on something, and they could be the exact same. Time and energy does not equate to greatness. It's all up for interpretation, as we all know, right? So the more efficient you can be in your process, that gives you more time. Which is a good thing, because then you can create more art, or you can spend time doing other things. We're usually multifaceted people. Time is fucking energy and money, babe. Like I can't spend all day. I used to get so frustrated. Like, God, I'm not done with this piece and I have so much to do and I have the class tonight. And why did I wait oh my gosh, it was so stressful. Now I don't go through that stress at all. Yeah. So I would wait to the last minutes. It would cause me a lot of stress and frustration. And then ultimately, because I was just waiting to the last minute, I would just put together what I call lazy choreo, which, like I said, there's a time and a place, and choreography and art, it all serves a purpose. No matter what you think it's going on, like I've put together what I call lazy pieces, and my students love them. And they're like, yo, this was like the best piece, whatever. I'm like, that's great. Like it served its purpose. But as the creator, you're like, I could have sat in this a little bit more, or like tweak this a little bit better, maybe communicated my story a little bit better. Like that's all stuff that's behind the scenes for you. You know what I mean? It like you getting the piece out for your people that need it, like that's all that matters. The rest is just your creative process, your journey. Okay. But I was getting an unhappy cycle because I was like, I could just do better. Like there's a much better and more efficient way to do what I'm doing. Like waiting to the last minute, throwing together, lazy choreo. And then I feel like I could have executed better. It was an unhappy cycle for me. So I was like, I got to come up with a better method. And like I said, choreography on demand. I'm not even going to I shouldn't call it lazy choreo, but choreography on demand. There's a time and a place. Say you're booked for a job and they're like, we need consistent, consistent 8 counts, like every day. Like, I don't know. But it might feel a little bit more forceful as a creative being to like pump stuff out and not use the method that I like to use. And I feel like when you're inspired, it just tells a different story. It just flows better. It just feels better. You don't feel like, ugh, I'm doing a job. Because that's what it feels like too when you're having to pump stuff out and not acting on a creative impulse and not acting on an inspired impulse. It feels like work. And don't nobody want to fucking work. I don't want to work. I already have a job, okay? I don't want to feel like what I'm doing outside of that is extra work, bitch. I don't want to extra work. And I know you don't either. So if we stick to this method, I think it'll help you feel inspired and then it feels like you're not working. So let me break down this methodology. The way that I create is and this is very much to me, we find what works for you. The way that I create is very much based off of how my body feels. The physical, and when I say that, I mean the physical sensations in my body. So when I feel good in my body, meaning when I feel warm, when I feel engaged in my core, when my knees don't hurt on a good day, I'm like, yes, let me roll on the floor. Let me let me hit this extension real quick. Like, let me piece it together and make a story. So it's my creative process is very much based off of how my body feels that day. With that being said, I have noticed every single time I go to the gym and I come home, I always want to choreograph. I always want to move. I always want to dance. I'm just more, like I said, engaged. I'm flexible. I'm warm. I'm ready to go. Like I go to the gym. I'm got a good pump in. I come back and I'm like, okay, well, what else can I do with my body? You know what I'm saying? Another one is when I get off work, I have had to be serious all day. I'm a healthcare provider. So I'm like a serious girly all day. I come home and I've got the motherfucking zoomies real bad. And all I want to do is move my body, shake, move around, all that. Okay. And so what I've noticed is, like I said, on a consistent basis, every single time after the gym and every single time after work, I get a creative spike. Okay. If I choreograph during these times, it flows so much easier. I just don't feel like I'm forcing anything. I feel like that's been in my opinion, because remember, art is not for you. It's actually for your audience. But I like what I'm choreographing. And I think that's important too. Obviously, you want your audience to like what you're choreographing. But I think it's important for you to like what you put out as well. Yeah, I've noticed that I enjoy what I'm choreographing and I like it. Also, if you are a like in tune with your flow type girly, during the follicular stage of your cycle, women are much more prone to creative outbursts, or like we're more in tune with our creative process, which I really have seen that in myself. So I try to choreograph, like if I have a class during the month, I will choreograph with my cycle, and if like that's like no pun intended, but it flows. Okay. So what I want you to do, go ahead and grab that just honestly at this point, make it a fucking notebook. Go grab that notebook that we work on together. Okay. Here's your homework. You need to write down every single time you have a natural spike of inspiration. And it could be, who knows, maybe it's in the morning. Maybe it's after your cup of coffee. Ooh, that would be a good one. Maybe it's every time that you're with a certain person and you've been laughing all day. Maybe it's every time that you have like a great day. Maybe it's after every Wednesday for some reason. You need to start tracking your natural spikes in creativity, because then we're going to start using it to our advantage. but you're not going to know when they occur unless you start tracking them. So that's going to be step one, is you need to really make a list and get detailed. And don't force it like, oh, I get creative after class every time. Let it flow. If you don't, then you don't, and that's okay. And if you do, then you do, and that's okay. And it might take 3 weeks to a month to find that natural flow of creativity. But when you feel like your inspiration strikes, I need you to write it down so we can start tracking it and then using it to our advantage. So that's my methodology, is I got it down to a T. And the way that I utilize it now, oh man, it's so cool. So if I know that I have a class or several classes that I'm choreographing for, I will go to the gym. And then I will come home and I will schedule time in my day. I'm like, this is my choreography time. And it works like a charm, baby. It's worked like a charm since I've switched over to this method. And honestly, that is habit stacking. And I'll make probably a whole episode about dancing and habit stacking. But I am such a fan of habit stacking. It's like how I hack everything. The way that anyways, very much have to do multiple things at once. But I will literally schedule the gym before any choreography session. I will make sure that I do everything at the gym that I need to really feel good about choreographing. And then it works like a charm every single time. Or like I said, I will schedule in or just plan on, I'm not going to go to dance class tonight because I know once I get off work, I got the zoomies real bad. I'm choreographing as soon as I hit the door. And that is me working with my inspiration instead of just, okay, I'm going to schedule time before my class on Thursday to choreograph. Well, who's saying, and that's another thing. You don't just bet that you're going to feel creative on a Thursday before your class. Like, class is on Friday and here you go on a random Tuesday trying to choreograph. Like, who's to say that you're going to be creative that day? Because when you start teaching, or when you're teaching and you're doing it on a consistent basis, you have to come up with choreography on a consistent basis. So I don't know about y'all, but before I used to, choreograph like a day or a day and a half to 2 days before. And that shit was fucking me up because I would get to if class is on Friday, I would get to Wednesday and then I'm like, I got to come up with something. And I have nothing. I have no inspiration going. I have no creative uptick. And I'm just forcing it. And then I end up coming up with something that I don't like. The students are like, oh, I love it. They can't tell. But the process was just painful because here I am just like, damn, I know I'm so much better than this. And I'm cranking out bullshit in my opinion, Now that does not happen. I feel like anytime I put something out, I'm like, yeah, I feel good about that. I feel good about that. Like, put that on stage right now. Put that right behind Drake. Not Drake. And also, so on a note of you're not going to know when creativity, upticks. So yes, I know for a fact every single time I go to the gym or get off work, I want to choreograph. But also, do not limit yourself because, man, I will be out and about. And the new one for me is my car. I have realized when I'm driving, I don't know if it's maladaptive daydreaming or what the fuck. But I'm like, yo, I'm coming up with some fire choreo up in my head. So I have been known to pull the fuck over and just video myself in the car real quick because I'm like, yo, I might not remember this. And that's another thing. If you have an impulse to choreograph or to create, do something rough right then and there. Do not think that it's going to come back to you or you're going to want to act on it later. You're not. And you're not. And you're not. I know you're not. Okay. I thought about this really cool thing in the car. I'll just choreograph to it later. No, you're not going to remember. I'm sorry. And I got this really cool inspiration for a painting. I'll just, jot it down later. No, jot it right now. Like, I don't care if you have to carry around a little notebook with you to write down a couple words to help trigger the memory, but you need to be acting on your creative impulses throughout the day. My notes app, y'all, is fucking insane. I have so much mindset bullshit up in that shit, and it's crazy. Now, what I do is I just word vomit a whole bunch of shit all the time. I'm constantly talking to myself. So I was like, oh, it only makes sense that I make a podcast so I can at least talk to other people about this, right? Anywho, I'm constantly word vomiting into my notes app. And then at the end of the week, every day, or at the end of the week, I am organizing it into a Google Doc. So I have this huge master list of topics and expanding on it. And I don't have to sit there and have to just gruelingly come up with ideas. Like I said with the videos, I have so much like little pieces of choreo from my car that if I'm ever like, oh, I need to, choreograph something in a pinch. Oh, I came up with something kind of cool the other day in the car. Like, let me explore that more. And I at least have something kind of rough to go off of. So I'm still getting a little bit of that inspiration that already was there. Yeah. So definitely don't bet on having those thoughts again. Just get them out so you can act on them. Because if they stay in your head, they're going to stay in your head. Good. So a general rule I also like to talk about when we're creating, because now we're in the creative process. So, we've found our pattern. We're choreographing or we're painting or whatever our choreographic process or our artistic process is. Do not expect to go from micro to macro, or do not expect yourself to go from in a perfect order, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Sometimes your brain or your process is going to want to skip a step, and that's fine. Don't get caught up. This used to fuck me up so bad. I would choreograph an 8 count and then I would have nothing for the next 4 count, but then I would have that following 5 to 8 count and I would get stuck and then I would not get anything done. Like I said, you're going to want to keep going back. The more that you go back, it trains your brain that it's okay to do that. So you need to train your brain. No, I know that I'm hung up on this little let me just put something here just to hold the space. I'll come back to that. Let me keep it going, because you could keep messing with this. And on a note of that, if it starts to get frustrated, if it starts to feel forced and you start to get frustrated, walk away. Just take a little break. Just take a little breather, turn the song off, turn something else on, move a different way, go stretch, go eat, go sleep, do something else. Because if you try to sit there and force it, it's going to create some negative emotions, and you are going to have those negative emotions associated with any time that you're trying to choreograph or move or create a piece. So you really have to get yourself out of the moment before it becomes a associated behavior or a negative feeling every single time that you go to create a piece. Okay, so you've got your first draft of whatever, right? We would say we've created our piece. You're gonna look at the deadline. Is it due tomorrow? If it is, child, turn it in. Do not change your deadline. Do not make excuses. Don't flake. Just put it out there. And I know, and I understand, like I've said, I've been there before where you're not 100% on a piece, but you have class in like an hour. You cannot cancel class. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And What are you going to do? Explode? You're going to die? You're not going to die. Okay. No one, and honestly, no one's even going to know. If you sit there, if you go into class and you're like, hey guys, so I brought a piece today and I actually don't even like any of it. But we're going to just do it because I had it. Girl, I would walk out of that class. Like, get out of here with that attitude. You better just teach me something and have a good attitude. Like, it's never that serious. It's really never that serious. It's never that serious. Honestly, when I choreograph something and I'm like, I don't like it, but I gotta keep it pushing. I'd be like, okay, what? Drake was gonna book me if I would have changed this one thing. Drake is not booking me because I changed this one thing. So you can't change it. You can't change your deadline. Turn it the fuck in. Get over it. Just try something new on your next go. Okay. But if you have your first draft done and you're ahead of schedule, and you have time to look at it, then you can look at it in a very, is it objective? I think it's objective, in a very objective way. Okay. What you're going to do, okay? You're going to look at your whole piece and you're going to go, does this tell a story? Does this convey my message? Does it make sense? Okay, if not, you could change some things or, leave it. Is there different dynamics that we can use or a different texture maybe? Maybe you could look at different shapes or timing of things that you already have. This is not scrapping the piece, you guys. This is just looking at things in a different perspective. Maybe there's different levels we can use here, or maybe a different facial, a different feeling. It's saying this is the same piece, okay? Just looking at different elements that we can tweak here and there, okay? Building on what we already have. You are not going to pick apart every single detail. Leave it alone. Don't do it. Leave it alone. These are the tiniest of little details. And you're also not going to judge your own work. I've said this so many times. As an artist, it is your job to put out the art. It is not your job to judge it at all. You just get it out there and let your audience decide for you, okay? You're not going to scrap it. And honestly, you should just be proud that you got something accomplished. So many people don't even do that first step of just getting something out there. It's insane. They let their own headspace stop them from even putting out anything, which is so sad. So don't ever scrap anything because it's your baby, okay? And feel accomplished with just finishing that. Your art is not for you. You are not your audience. I like this one because when I started really putting out massive projects, whether it was a concept video or, hey, I'm going to do a podcast or coaching, things like that, I would bring this up to some friends or my husband. Or my husband, actually, he was a really good he made me realize this, but he's like, you're not your audience. So what, yeah, of course, like what you like is not what, the people that this is intended for is going to like. And I'm like, that's actually a good point. So let your art be for your audience. Let them decide for you, if they enjoy it. And then you can take, not criticism, but opinions from them because they are your intended audience. I want you to also remember that you are separate from your art. So a lot of us, because our artwork is an extension of us, we feel like, and we might feel personally attacked if somebody doesn't like something. And that's okay. Well, no, it's not okay because you need to understand that, like I said, your art is not, it's separate from you. It's just a moment in time. Like if you want to get real meta with this, the art that you're putting out is just this second, this right now. It's not this grand defying moment. I know it feels that way, but it's really not. It's just a picture of the present time, okay? And I want you to not get attached as well. So that kind of goes along with it. If you get, I in the past, I would put something out and I would get stuck on it for a couple weeks. Like, I felt like I could do better. Da, da, da. Bitch, we're already on to the next piece. We do not have time to be sitting here being hung up or butthurt or anything over something that happened a week ago. Put that shit out, move on. And the harsh reality is we live in a society where, oh my God, everyone's attention span is fucking ruined. It's so bad nowadays. And if you are basing your whole, like, I don't know, your whole personality, your value as an artist on what is gonna, get you a lot of views or go viral on the internet, child, hang it up right now. Okay. You're going to be heartbroken all the time because a lot of times it's just based off of trends. It's based off of, posting schedules, things like that. It has really nothing to do with the actual content itself. So, like I always say, it's almost like a numbers game. Now, I'm not saying just pump out lazy choreography, lazy work, just to get your numbers up, and then eventually one will strike viral. But, if you're able to work with your creativity on a regular basis, like I was saying, and you're efficiently getting things out and you feel good about it and you're able to get out, what if you were getting out like a piece a day? You know what I'm saying? Like a dance a day and posting it, eventually something's going to go viral several times. There's just no way. Like, that's how numbers work. It's just a numbers game, really. Another thing I want you to remember, art is a really good reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if you have some stuff that's bubbling up every single time you go to choreograph or go to paint or something, it might be it's definitely a valid reason to sit down and be like, what's going on, self? Like, every time I go to choreograph or like teach class, like, I feel like no one's going to like this. And so, like, why do I feel like that? And I know it's an uncomfortable feeling to kind of explore because it makes you be vulnerable with yourself, which is like, that just hurts, when you have to own up to a quote unquote negative feeling. There is no negative feelings. But when you have to be vulnerable with yourself and real and honest and be like, man, I think I feel unsupported by, maybe my community, or I feel like I don't have very many friends to depend on, so no one's going to like it, or I don't know. I'm just coming up with reasons for you, but it might be a good idea to just sit down and kind of explore why you feel this way. Because as artists, we should feel the best when we're putting things out on a consistent basis, and we should feel so like empowered by our craft. So if you have any negative feelings surrounding putting your artwork out, it might be a good time to explore that emotion and that feeling. Ways to declutter. So I think that, like I said, sometimes our artistic Glock gets jammed and we got to declutter some shit. So, what I like to do, and I've told my clients this, is I like to freestyle. And I feel like I'll post some more of my freestyle exercises, but I'll give myself prompts, I'll freestyle, and sometimes I'll record it, sometimes I won't. It just depends on how I'm feeling. If I feel like the camera is causing me more stress than, support and a tool, then I'm not going to record it. And if I feel like, you know what, I think I kind of want to work with the camera a little bit or see what I come up with, then I'll record it. But freestyling is a really cool tool, but you need to know how to freestyle. And a lot of people don't, not a lot of people, but sometimes people freestyle the wrong way. And there's not a wrong, like, there is a wrong way to freestyle. If you're freestyling and you're just doing stuff to do stuff, that is a wrong way to freestyle. Freestyling is like a feeling. You need to listen to your music and try to match the energy that the music is giving you. And you need to not worry about what it looks like. That is a true freestyle. Just going off of the feeling. Don't worry about what it looks like. And that's how you're going to declutter. If you're freestyling to like throw tricks out or whatever, like, and I'm talking about like, I need you to freestyle by yourself too. If you're freestyling, trying to work on tricks or what you look like, that's something else. That's practice. Okay. Freestyling should truly feel like a journal exercise. It should feel like just movement for movement's sake. It should not be this stress inducing, what do I look like kind of situation. Okay. If you're doing the other stuff, then that's practice, and that's fine too. There's a time to practice a freestyle, but then there's a true just freely moving. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about declutter. That's what I want you to do. The other thing that I've just started doing very recently is I'm reading this book called The Artist's Way, and it's for artists, obviously, and just the creative process. And the author talks about doing this thing called morning pages. And I was like, oh, great. Another journaling exercise. I'm so over it. Because I don't know, guys. I used to journal so much, and I don't know. It just never did anything for me. Like, Dear Diary, like, I don't know. I just feel corny doing it. It's just so weird. But the way that the author talks about journaling, or she calls it morning pages, is a just conscious flow of writing, or conscious or subconscious. A just flow of writing. You're word vomiting, essentially. And it just lets you just say whatever. And it could be about nothing. You're just writing. There's no intention. There's no, I feel this way. Nothing like that. It's just, oh, I'm kind of tired. I don't know what to write. I'm kind of just writing just for the sake of writing. Oh, now I'm thinking about this. And it's just word vomiting. And when I started doing that, I started realizing that I was more aware of my thoughts. So when you're choreographing, there's all this shit that's going through your head sometimes. And I think when you draw attention to it, like, yo, why am I thinking all this stuff? Why am I not just moving and dancing? It kind of shuts up. But if you're not aware that there's all this dialogue going on in your head when you're trying to move and dance and do a very physical thing, it gets really cluttered in your head. And then you can't do what the fuck you need to do. You can't choreograph. You can't perform, right? Because there's this dialogue. But when you're able to practice this, this method of becoming aware of the dialogue, I think it just shuts it up. I try that with anxiety too. I think it helps when you're like, oh, that was interesting thought. Why did I think that? Why do I think I'm anxious right now? And then it just kind of gets quiet in there. It's kind of nice. Imposter syndrome. This is another thing that artists struggle with, dancers struggle with. I struggle with too, guys. Like I said, I'm trying to be more open because everybody thinks, I don't know. I think they think that when you're like a coach, like everything's kind of easy. It's not. I be dealing with a lot of stuff. And I deal with imposter syndrome, but I have ways to battle imposter syndrome. So one of the ways, a really big way that I like to battle imposter syndrome is I like to, for me, I'm visual. So I'm going to tell you to list out a list of your either accomplishments. But I think for dancers, more specifically, maybe scroll your Instagram and look at all your dance videos that you've created. So when I'm like, ugh, I suck, I will literally scroll on my own page so far down, all the way to like 2019 when I first started teaching. And I'm like, after like 5 minutes of scrolling, I'm like, damn, I liked that piece and I did that piece all by myself. And man, I was in my bag when I choreographed that. Or like, oh, that's a good one. I should bring that back. Or like, damn, I thought about that when I had shitty technique. Or, you know what I mean? You start to really see your progress, and then you're reminded like, bitch, I've done this 1,000 times. Why am I over here sitting down? Like, this is my very first class I'm ever teaching. It always feels that way. But you kind of remind yourself who the fuck you are, okay? And like I said, you can list it out. You can write down. I've written down, sometimes I have to write down my certifications. Like I'm a certified ballerina. I'm a certified bar Pilates instructor. Like, bitch, I know what the fuck I'm talking about when I talk to these clients and I'm giving them exercises and progressive ballet technique. And, it's not just, because when you're in your head with imposter syndrome, you're like, well, why am I credible? Well, let me remind myself why I'm credible. So that is a really good way to physically combat that. And you have to write it down. Like I always tell people, I know everyone's like, it's up here. It's not. You got to write it down. You have to do something in the physical realm. You cannot just, oh, I'll think about it and then it's going to get better. No. And lastly, okay, so we've got our creative process down. We figured out inspiration. We know how to unblock ourselves. We know how to declutter. We know what not to do when we are done choreographing. We've got a deadline. We're good. Okay. Now, if we've gone through this whole process and we still are just not convinced, we're like, I don't know. I'm just still not feeling good. I don't think I'm a true artist because how am I an artist if I'm not putting anything out, right? How am I a choreographer if I don't even choreograph anything? Well, if there's nothing else that has convinced you from this episode, this last little part, I really hope does. You have a responsibility to put your artwork out. As an artist, and you are, if you think that you're an artist, too late, you already are. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't even think the thought, okay? It wouldn't even cross your mind that maybe I can dance, maybe I can sing, maybe I can paint. Too late. You thought of it, so now you have to act on it. If you even think that you're an artist, you have a responsibility to share your art with the world. You have to. There's so many people in this world. There's so many, like, I don't even know how many people in there. There's a lot of people in the world, you guys. And there's so many people that could benefit. There's so many people that could resonate with your art. There's so many people that would appreciate it. There's so many people that would feel seen by the way that you move or just who you are. And oh my gosh, they look like me and they get and that's my favorite song and they get what I'm saying and I feel that way. There's so many people that could benefit from your art and your creations that it's actually extremely selfish of you to hold out and not put your artwork out. So you're a selfish person, and I hope that hits you in your chest. You are a selfish person if you are not putting your content out, if you're not putting your artwork out. I'm so serious. Get that shit out there. Other people need it, not you. Your art is not for you. Your creations are not for you. They're for the world, okay? So don't be a shitty, selfish person. You need to share your message with the world. Get that shit out there. People are suffering without your gift. Okay. I really hope that drives the point home. Seriously. I really do hope that all of this helps your creative process. Your creative process is always changing. And like I said, my process might look different from somebody else's process. My process has changed from over the years. I feel personally like this method has worked the best for me. And I know that I'm going to use it for quite some time because it's just really given me a good flow to get stuff out efficiently and timely, because that's really important. Like I said, when you get things out timely, you have more time to do other things, and you have to be confident in the world needs your art. Like I said, I hope this episode really helps you and inspires you to put out your art. I cannot wait to see what you're going to put out. I'm looking at you. I know you can't see me if you're just listening, but I'm looking at you and I'm telling you to get your shit out. I want to see it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're currently working on, what you plan to work on, when the deadline is, sis. I need it right now. And send this to a dancer that needs to get their artwork out, get their dancing out, get their choreography out, so they can get the fuck out of their head and onto the dance floor. Till next time, guys, I'm Latte, and I will speak to you later.